Hey everybody, and happy Saturday. So you caught me in the office, so I do want to go ahead and start my next video, which is going to be addressing the most common questions that I get asked by home buyers. Now that could be first-time home buyers. It could be those who have bought homes before and they just don't have all the answers, of course. Nobody really has all the answers. So we're going to go ahead and address these. I've compiled a list of the most common questions, but if I don't address one of the questions that you may have or that you may have been wondering, feel free to drop that in the comments or even give me a phone call or a text message, and I would love to address that question for you. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so question number one is, how much house can I afford? Well, now that's a loaded question, of course, because there are some people who live beyond their means, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but they make it work. However, my best advice is to stay within 28% of your income. So let's just say you make $5,000 a month. I would say keep your house payment somewhere at around $1,400. And the reason I say that is because not only your house payment will be your homeowner's insurance and all of that good stuff, but you will still have utility bills. You'll still have cable, internet, whatever it is that your phone bill. You're still going to have your regular bills on top of that, and you definitely don't want to max out at more than what you can afford and then still have all them other bills. So I would say the general rule of thumb would be about 28%. Now, here's the thing, guys. Get pre-approved. Okay. If you get pre-approved, you don't got to worry about none of that. Speak to a lender before you start looking at houses, and that will kind of give you an idea. Your lender will tell you, this is how much house you could actually afford after I look through your finances. You'll be comfortable at this point. You could possibly go up to this, but it might be a little less comfortable. Your lender will tell you all of that. Okay, so question number two, and it probably should have been question number one because I actually get this question way more than any of the other ones. Is it true that I had to put 20% down? So what should I be saving for? Is what I get asked. No, it's not true that you have to put 20% down because there are different loans that require different down payments. An FHA loan, you're going to have about 3.5% that you would put down. For a VA loan, you would have 0. For USDA, 0 also, but the property has to qualify for USDA. What else? A conventional loan, you could go under 20%. So the whole 20% rule is if you're trying to avoid paying PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, that's when you would do the 20%. But no, you could absolutely get in a home for less than 20%. Okay, so question number 3 is, what does the actual home buying process look like? So can you walk us through the whole thing before we actually get there? Absolutely. So number 1, my buyer's guide walks you through the entire thing from beginning to end. So when you work with me, when you approach me, hey, Nicole, I'm ready to buy a house. Me and you are going to sit down and we're going to go through this buyer's guide, and it's going to detail everything from beginning to end. But let's just say you're not already one of my clients and you just want to know. So the very beginning, you want to get pre-approved. I always tell people that's the very beginning. I know buyers hate hearing that because it's like, we just want to look at houses right now. We don't want to do blah, blah, blah. The big importance of getting pre-approved is you're already prepared. So if I take you to 123 Banana Street and you fall in love with it and you're like, I don't want somebody to get this house. I want this to be my house. Well, then I'm going to have to say, well, Sally, you know what? You didn't get pre-approved. So we have to back stuff a little bit, and we have to talk to your lender. You have to submit all the documents. You have to get a pre-approval because nobody's going to accept your offer without that pre-approval. So that is basically step number 1. Most realtors are going to tell you, get that pre-approval first for that reason. So that way you're already prepared, and so we know what your spending limit is. So pre-approval is definitely number 1. Then we're going to start looking at homes. Okay. You're going to tell me what your criteria is, or you're going to tell your realtor what your criteria is. I need a 3-bedroom. I need a 2-bedroom, whatever your criteria is. We're going to narrow it down. We're going to send you some homes, say, hey, have a look at these. What do you like? What do you not like? So that way it gives us a good idea. We're going to start hitting the road and looking at some of these homes now that you got that pre-approval in hand. Excuse me. And so once we hit the road and we're looking at homes, you finally find the house that you love. We're going to submit an offer. Now, before we submit the offer, me and you are going to have a talk. We're going to say, okay, well, you're a FHA loan. Do you have the 3.5% down? Are you prepared to move forward with this? Then I'm going to ask you, how much due diligence are you willing to put down? And due diligence is a fee that we give to the seller to take their home off the market for the next month, or whatever, how many days. How much earnest money do you want to do? Now, generally we do 1%, but what I always tell my clients, do what you're comfortable doing, because due diligence is never refundable. So if you go clear out your whole entire bank account and you give this seller all of your money for the due diligence because you want them to know just how serious you are, and then let's just say for some reason you have to back out because the roof is falling in or something, whatever, you're not going to get that money back. So I say, what's comfortable to you? Of course, you want to make your offer appealing. You don't want to say, well, I'll give you 50 cents. No, you want to make it appealing because they're pulling their house off the market, but you also don't want to do what you're not able to do. Okay. So now we're going to talk about positioning our offer, what we want to do. Of course, I'm going to provide you with the CMA. I'm going to tell you what I feel the market value of this house is. Is it too high? Is it too low? We're going to talk about that. Me and you are going to talk about what is a good, price for this house and due diligence, all of that. We're going to have that conversation. Now we're at the point where seller has accepted your offer. So now that seller has accepted your offer, now it's hustle time. And when I say it's hustle time, it's hustle for me as your realtor. I'm doing a lot of paperwork on the backside. And I'm also facilitating things for you. So you need to have your inspection done, for one. So your inspection is not mandatory. You do not have to have an inspection done, but I highly recommend it because appraisals are not going to tell you every single little teeny tiny thing. And an inspection, just because North Carolina is a as-is state, meaning sellers don't have to do all the repairs, it's a good checklist to go by. Okay, well, I know that there was a weak spot in the back floor or whatever, so I need to take care of that in the next couple years or the next couple months even, so it doesn't get worse. So it's a good checklist to go by, or it may even tell you, hey, this is not the home for me. Seller doesn't want to make these crucial repairs, and so I might need to walk. So inspections are very important, very, very important. So then your lender, like I said, I'm doing a lot of work on the backside. I'm getting information to your lender. I'm getting information to your attorney because you have to have a closing attorney in North Carolina. So I'm facilitating all this. I'm creating this triangle, if you will. And so next your lender is going to get an appraisal ordered. Once your appraisal is ordered, we get that report back, in maybe a week, somewhere around there, depending on how fast it takes them. And once we get that report back, it may say there are some appraisal required repairs. If there are appraisal required repairs, we have to submit a DDRR, which is a due diligence repair request. And that is asking the seller, hey, we can't continue with our loan on this home unless XYZ is done. And in most cases, the seller will do it just because they know that, it will be a material fact. If we back out, they're going to have to disclose that to the next buyer anyway. So they might as well go ahead and do them, but they don't have to. And you want to keep that in the back of your mind always. They don't have to do any repairs. Sometimes I've actually seen buyers do it. It just really depends, how bad you want the house and how strapped both sides are. We'll go down that rabbit hole in a different video. But so after we get our appraisal, you're going to finalize your loan. So your lender is going to communicate back and forth with you. He's going to communicate with me. Hey, Nicole, do you have the WDIR, which is the wood destroy and insect report? That's if you're a VA buyer. And we're going to be doing a lot of ins and outs. You're going to be finishing up your loan. And then we're going to do something called a final walkthrough. So right there towards the end, I would say about 24 hours before you close, we have to walk through that home. And we have to make sure that home is in the same condition that you fell in love with it in the beginning. And then after that, we meet at the closing table, which would be your closing attorney. If it's going to be a mail away closing, that's different circumstances, but typically we would all meet, me, you, and your attorney is going to meet at the attorney office, and we're going to close. Do you get keys right then and there? No, unfortunately you don't. You have to wait for it to record in the courthouse at the Register of Deeds. And that could take a few hours to a day. It doesn't happen immediately, but it is pretty quick. Okay, so question number 4. Should I wait for rates to go down before I buy? No, never, never, never. That's never going to be the advice that I give. However, I'm not that person that tells you date the rate and marry the house, because I can't guarantee that rates are going to be 2% tomorrow. But what I can guarantee is everything in real estate changes daily, just about daily. Okay, maybe not daily, but weekly. Um, so house prices may go up tomorrow, may start trending upwards. Um, the rates may go higher. Okay, so that's why I say you should never wait. Waiting on rates to go lower is kind of like trying to catch a knife coming from above or something, because you might catch it on that good side, or you might catch it on the blade. Um, you shouldn't wait. If you find the house that you love, if you find the house that's in your budget, don't let it go, because that house might not be the same price tomorrow, or it might be gone tomorrow. You might not find another house that fits your needs the way that house did. Now, is refinancing an option? The whole date the rate, marry the house. Yes, refinancing is always an option. But we don't know what tomorrow is going to be in our economy. We don't know, is rates going to be 9% next week? I hope not. I hope never again. But are they going to be higher? There's always that possibility. Could they be lower? There's always that possibility. But should you wait to purchase your home, something that you need, and something that the prices of homes may go up as well? Should you wait for that? No, I don't think you should. I think you should find the home that you want. I think you should go ahead with it. Find the home that works for you and your family, and go ahead and secure the home. And then if rates do happen to go down, you can refinance. Okay. Okay, so question number 5 is, buyers always ask me, what should we be looking for when we're touring homes? And that's an amazing question, because I see a lot of buyers make a lot of mistakes when we're touring homes. They start going to colors of walls. They start going to things that are not so important. There are very important things we need to pay attention to. Well, that coffered ceiling may be beautiful. It may be taking your attention, or the staging. Sometimes they stage homes, and it might, take your attention to all the beautiful decoration that they have in the home, and you're not looking at the things that you need to look at. Open up them sinks. Open up the cabinet underneath the sink. Make sure there's no staining under there. Look at every ceiling and every room. Are there any stains in there? Now, this does not guarantee that the house is not going to have any problems. Of course, we're not licensed inspectors. However, just things like this can probably save you a headache later. We're going to ask, when was the HVAC last serviced? How old is the HVAC? How old is the roof? We want to know all of these things. We're going to step outside, and we're going to look at that roof thoroughly. We're not going to climb up there, of course. We don't want to get hurt, but we're going to look at that roof thoroughly. If there's a crawl space, we're going to open up that crawl space. We're going to look. Do you see any moisture under there? Is there any standing water under there? Do they have a vapor barrier? Is there a sump pump? Now, sometimes I wonder, when there's a sump pump, why was the sump pump needed? Is this a flood zone? We need to learn that, because that could be flood insurance that you might have to. There are so many things that you need to know and that you need to be paying attention to. Go in every room, flip on every light. If you see like scorch marks around your outlets, that could be a red flag. Open up that breaker box. See any scorch marks? That's a red flag. There's a lot of different things that we need to be paying attention to. And before you enter that house, before you set out and start looking at homes, talk to your realtor and say, hey, do you have a checklist that I can bring with me? So that way I don't get in there and, oh, the furniture is so pretty, and I forget about all the things that I need to look at. That is a big, big, big piece of advice that I have for you. Get your realtor to give you a checklist. One other thing that I highly recommend when you're touring homes, visit the home different times of the day. Okay. That doesn't mean go inside the home without your realtor. That just means once you've already toured the home with your realtor and you've already seen that there's nothing wrong, or to your knowledge, there's nothing wrong with the inside, go morning, noon, and night, different points of the day, drive past that home and see what the atmosphere is like. If it's something that's warm and inviting and something that you like, something that you could work with, then that's a go. If it makes you kind of your skin crawl or something because you're there at 9 o'clock and it looks a little sketchy and you're not feeling it, or if it's the traffic is real heavy and you don't like heavy traffic, or maybe it's too quiet. There's everybody likes different things. I don't like it to be too quiet. Okay, so question number 6 is, how do I make my offer stand out in a competitive market? Do we have to go above asking price? No. It's not always about price, guys. Sometimes it could be about contingencies. The seller might be just wanting to go and not have to worry about anything else. And if you've got every contingency under the sun in that offer to purchase, meaning, you've got to sell a home before you buy a home, or, whatever, then you know what? You're probably not going to get accepted if somebody else is submitting an offer that don't have any contingencies. Or if you're submitting an offer for, 90 days, a 90-day offer, well, we're going to close in 3 months because that's when I'm going to be able. He might not like that because he might need somebody to close quicker than that, or he might need a longer closing. So there are different factors to making your offer stand out. My biggest piece of advice would be, have your agent reach out to that seller's agent and say, hey, we're trying to strategize our offer. Is there anything in particular that your seller needs, such as like a shorter closing date or maybe a longer closing date? Do they need higher due diligence, or do they want a higher asking price? And of course, they're not going to completely give you all the, the details and everything, but they might give you a few hints. And that would be my best piece of advice. But just understand it's not always about the list price. It's not always about that. There are other factors that are involved, which is closing date, contingencies. Are you asking for everything under the sun? Are you asking for a whole lot of closing costs? Are you asking for home warranties? Are you asking for more than your typical buyer would be asking for? If you're competing, then asking for full closing and home warranties and all of that, that might not get you that offer. That might not get you that house. So think about that, okay? Okay, so the next question is, what are some of the most common mistakes that first-time home buyers make? Now, this is not just first-time home buyers. I feel like sometimes first-time home buyers are more aware than people who's done this time after time after time, because people who's bought several homes become complacent. It's bad to say, but they do. They get in a hurry. Oh, I've done this before. And they leave out small factors. They might see the first house and they jump on it. Now, I don't care if you bought one home, if you're a first time home buyer, or if you bought 30 of them. Never buy the first home that you see. If you buy the first home that you see, you're not giving yourself that grace, because there might be something else out there that fits your needs better. I would say see at least 5 to 7 homes before putting in that offer. And then you may decide to go back to that first home. Who knows? You may not decide, but at least it's giving yourself that choice. Okay, well, I've seen what's out there and I still love that first home. So that's biggest mistake number 1, is falling in love with the very first home. Biggest mistake number 2 would be not budgeting for closing costs. Even though your realtor is telling you before you ever even see the house, closing costs can be anywhere from 3 to 5%. Make sure you're budgeting for that. Make sure you're saving for that. Or if a family member is going to give it to you, make sure it's secured. Make sure it's there whenever you need it. And then we get halfway through and they're like, what can we do? So that's another thing. So budgeting for closing costs. What else? Skipping a home inspection. I would never, ever, ever suggest that. I don't care if you're a first-time home buyer or if you've done this a million times. Home inspections are important. They're not mandatory, but they are very important. Very, very important. Never skip them. That's for you. That's for you to know, am I buying something that's going to fall apart tomorrow? Or, to give you a checklist of things that you need to do. What else? Oh, buying at the top of their budget. If you've been pre-approved for $250 and then you find a house that's $251, well, now you've exceeded your budget, or even if you're right there at your budget, you don't have anything left over. So you're very at the top of your budget, and that's probably not the best idea. But yeah, either way, whether you've made any of these mistakes or whether you make in the future any of the mistakes, always understand mistakes will happen. As long as you have a great team beside you, we can find solutions. Okay, so question number 8, guys. We're getting to the end here. Now, I've got a whole list compiled of questions that I've been asked. How do you choose the right realtor? Well, of course, I am the right realtor. No, I'm just kidding. Interview agents, okay? And I'm not going to say that an agent who's been in the business for 30 years is always going to know every single little thing. I honestly, it's been of my experience that sometimes newer agents know more because they just got done studying that entire book. Now, experience speaks a lot, though. So, my biggest key of advice, find an agent with a big support system. So us here at Coldwell Banker, when I was a new agent, I felt confident helping people, even though I didn't have that experience behind me, because I had a team, like a plethora of experienced agents that were right beside me day in and day out, helping me, giving me advice. If there was something I wasn't very fluent in, they were going to help me. My BIC was always available. And BIC means broker in charge. That's kind of like our boss. And so experience is a great thing. But if it's an agent that you really want to work with because you mesh well with them, but then you're like, oh, but they don't have a lot of experience. Well, look at their support system. Your biggest thing, you don't want a realtor sitting beside you day in and day out that you can't communicate with, that you feel awkward around, or that you don't mesh well with. That is my biggest thing. If you don't mesh well with me, I don't want you to keep me around just because you're afraid that you're going to hurt my feelings, because this is one of the greatest experiences that you're going to have. And I don't want to be the thing that makes it negative for you. Okay. So, always, number one, you want somebody that you mesh well with. Now, of course, you want them to have experience, but if they don't have experience, that's okay. They might have a firm backing them. They might have a support system. They might have a team that is helping them every inch of the way. Sometimes newer agents are very knowledgeable. Don't sleep on new agents. Just because somebody's been in the business for 30 or 40 years doesn't mean they know everything. But they do have experience. So don't sleep on the older agents either. So, it's really going to boil down to, what do you work well with? Interview 2, maybe 3 agents and see who you mesh well with. Do you like the way they communicate with you? Are they tech savvy? Is that something that you really want? You want somebody that can text you? It's got to be somebody that can mesh well with you. And that's my biggest piece of advice. Now, these are the most common questions that I get asked, but every situation is different. So your situation may bring about questions that I have not addressed. And if that's the case, always feel free to reach out to me. If you want to drop a comment in the comment section, or if you want to give me a call or text at 910-587-0076, or you can even email me. I'm going to put my email in the comment section. Always feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have, whether you're a first-time home buyer or whether you've done it 100 times and you just aren't very sure about the type of market we're in right now. Every situation is absolutely different. So never feel funny about asking questions, okay? Because that's how you learn more, and that's how you feel more comfortable in the process. That's supposed to be one of the biggest purchases of your life, okay? All right. Well, I will see you guys next week. Bye.